3 spine-chilling true tales of terrifying encounters alone at night. Unexplained dangers revealed. Jenna felt the weight of comfort wrapped around her in her quiet suburban home. A single mother, she worked hard to build a life where nothing could disrupt the peace of her sleepy cul-de-sac. After tucking her daughter, Lily, into bed, the stillness seemed almost tangible. But when the phone rang, shattering that silence, every instinct within her flared up. It was her neighbor, Marianne, breathless and panicked. "Jenna, I saw them. Shadowy figures, darting between the cars. You have to lock your doors." Jenna rolled her eyes, dismissing Marianne's wild imagination. It was the kind of paranoia summer nights stirred in the less rational. "I'll be fine," she reassured, reminding herself that shadows were just familiars of darkness. She locked her doors and settled into the sofa, but unease gnawed at her as she noticed the silence in Lily's room upstairs. Nothing but darkness seeped from the crack of the door, and Jenna's heart quickened. Shouldn't she hear her daughter's gentle breathing? Suddenly, a soft thump resonated from above, piercing the calm. Jenna stood frozen, spine tingling. "Lily?" she whispered, fists clenched. The house seemed to exhale slowly around her, every creak and sigh too loud, too ominous. She pushed open Lily's door, revealing crumpled blankets, but the bed was empty. A single tiny footprint led ominously toward the staircase, sending a chill down Jenna's spine. Panic surged through her as the shadows seemed to coil tighter around the house, threatening her sanity. Was this the same block that had held friendly barbecues and neighborly waves? Trust began to feel slippery. Thoughts spiraled. What if the shadows weren't mere illusions? Outside, the nighttime darkness enveloped the street, and now it was inside, creeping through her home. She dashed to the staircase, heart thudding loudly in her ears, when dread pooled in her stomach. A whisper echoed through the hallway, chilling her to the bone. Mommy, meanwhile, 2 brothers, Jake and Ethan, ambled through a cornfield after soccer practice, daring each other to venture to the rumored haunted farmhouse. Nervous laughter shared between them quickly faded as they approached the dilapidated structure. The flickering light illuminated something unnatural, figures lurking just out of view. Their childish bravado evaporated, replaced by raw fear. Something watched them, stalking through the tall corn, a visceral sense of predatory danger chill coursing through their veins. At the same time, Jessica, the diligent social worker, dug deeper into a family that masked its tragedy with a bright front. Reports of neglect turned into disturbing signs, bizarre notes, objects moving in the night. Shadows whispered to her that trust could be misplaced, and hidden dangers could hide behind the smiles of those she needed to believe in. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Jenna's heart raced and her breathing quickened, she made her way toward the staircase, trepidation gripping her in its icy clutches. Each creak of the floor felt like a warning. Down the street, the brothers were frozen, realization dawning with a shove of panic. Jessica's mind raced with a heavy dread as she pieced together the layers of deception shrouding her wholesome little town. The creeping darkness seemed to blur the lines between the known and the unknown, pushing each character towards an inevitable confrontation with their fears. Will morning light break the tension, or will shadows guard their secrets until the end? Jenna braced herself at the foot of the stairs, the air heavy with dread. Shadows danced in the corners, mocking her as she called out once more. "Lily." There was no answer, just a stifling silence that chilled her to the bone. With every step she took toward that ominous whisper, her gut twisted tighter. It couldn't be anything good. The stairwell creaked under her weight, as if warning her to back away. Jenna gripped the banister, its cool wood grounding her wavering resolve. Each heartbeat echoed like a drum in her ears. She hesitated, instincts screaming to flee, but fear for her daughter propelled her forward. Upstairs, the hallway was cloaked in darkness, illuminated only by a sliver of moonlight piercing through the window. The quiet felt primal, as if hidden creatures lay in wait. The whisper came again, a taunting echo. "Mommy," it sounded so sweet yet so wrong. She reached Lily's bedroom door, her breath hitching, and nudged it open. The room was awash in shadow, the bed unmade, toys scattered across the floor. But it was odd. Where was the closet light? The faint glow that usually offered comfort was extinguished. Jenna dashed further into the room, her gaze snapping to the closet. The door was ajar, a darkened portal that seemed to breathe. "Lily, are you in there?" she called, voice trembling, feet rooted as if the floor might swallow her whole. The closet remained silent. Fear slithered through her veins. Was Lily hiding? Or was something else waiting there for her? As she stepped closer, the floorboard creaked beneath her. A movement skirted the edge of her vision, something slipping between shadows. Jenna froze, heart racing. "Jenna." The voice was back, louder and more insistent, almost mocking. Suddenly, Jake and Ethan crouched low in the cornfield, paralyzed by a throat-catching fear as they heard the muffled sound of laughter, the kind that belongs to the shadows. Figures darted between the tall stalks, cloaked in darkness. Not quite human, not entirely animal. Their eyes glinted like knives reflecting off the faint stall of the moon. "Did you see that?" Jake whispered, barely audible. The rustling grew nearer, the air thick with an unspeakable tension. They stumbled back, adrenaline surging as they collided into each other, desperately searching for escape. But every direction felt wrong. The corn seemed to close in, swallowing their cries as they sprinted, hearts pounding wild rhythms. They had stepped into a nightmare. Meanwhile, Jessica sat in her car, dark thoughts churning in her mind like a storm. The reports, the neglected child, the shifting shadows she had seen in the family's home. What if the darkness she was uncovering held more than neglect? What secrets lay beneath the seemingly perfect veneer? A chill ran down her spine as she turned to check the rearview mirror. The street seemed empty. Too empty. And then she noticed it. A figure standing among the trees, silent and watchful, its face obscured by the darkness. Each character, unknowingly, tread deeper into a night filled with lurking terror, a weaving of their fates drawing tighter like a noose. Back in Jenna's house, she felt the air shift, the deafening silence now alive with whispering shadows. The voice echoed once more, now from the depths of the closet. "Mommy, come play." The lights flickered, then dimmed, plunging her into inky blackness. She clutched her phone tightly, the glow weak but reassuring. As Jenna backed away from the closet, breath hitching in her throat, all three groups converged towards a fate neither could escape from. What awaited them as darkness closed in, knowing no bounds, threatening to turn trust into betrayal and innocence into horror. Jenna's heart thudded in her chest, louder than the suffocating silence that enveloped her. She squinted into the closet's abyss, the darkness swirling around like a living thing. The whispering voice, taunting her with its sweet familiarity, seeped into her mind, wrapping around her thoughts like icy fingers. "Mommy, stop it," she yelled, desperation spilling from her lips. "Stop saying that." The eerie silence that followed felt like a thick blanket pressing down on her, stifling her resolve. She took a shaky step back, but the hairs on her neck prickled. Something was still in there, something wrong. Before she could think, she lunged toward the closet, flinging the door wide open. The creak echoed off the walls, sharp and startling. The closet was empty, just jackets hanging limply, a few shoeboxes stacked haphazardly. But the darkness within churned, as if hiding something, something waiting. Her phone buzzed in her hand, startling her. A message from Jessica. "I'm outside. Come out now." Jenna fumbled to respond, fingers shaking as she typed. "I can't find Lily." There was no time to act. She sensed the darkness creeping closer. She slipped her phone back into her pocket and hurried across the room, determined to search the rest of the house. As she exited the bedroom, the walls seemed to pulse, whispering secrets she couldn't understand. Outside, Jessica's breath came in panicked bursts. She eyed the house, shadows seeping through the windows like ink. Her instinct warned her to leave, but the thought of that little girl trapped inside urged her forward. Another glance in the mirror showed the figure again, standing among the trees, a hulking mass now closer, looming and silent. "Jake, Ethan," she shouted into the night, voice cracking. "Where are you?" In the fading light of the cornfield, Jake and Ethan pressed against each other, adrenaline coursing through their veins. They could hear whispers rising above the rustling of the corn, a maddening chant that sent chills scuttling down their spines. They needed to run now. Go, Jake yelled, pulling at Ethan's sleeve. But as they turned to escape, the shadows shifted, blurring into a mass of movement. Figures darted towards them, eyes gleaming with an unnatural light. Their laughter echoed across the field, chilling and disembodied. What are they? Ethan gasped, panic clawing at him. I don't know. Just run. They dashed down an uneven path, heartbeats thrumming faster than their legs could carry them. The laughter grew louder, a cacophony that seemed to wrap around them, teasing, tormenting. As they broke free of the cornfield-esque grip, Ethan stumbled, falling hard against the dirt. Get up, Jake shouted, panic surging as the figures surged closer, shadows stretching and amalgamating into a singular mass of horror behind them. A thunderous pulse of fear filled the air, urging their legs to move faster. Hold my hand, Jake yelled, gripping Ethan's wrist as he yanked him upwards. The moment they were on their feet again, they sprinted toward the trees, hearing the whispers morph into clear words demanding, "Hungry, join us back in the house." Jenna searched every room frantically, her eyes darting from corner to corner. Each door she opened revealed only emptiness, but the shadows had begun to grow bolder, inching in closer, whispering secrets too terrible to comprehend. "Mommy, come play," the haunting voice echoed from her own mind, a reminder of a trust that twisted into treachery. An ominous thud resonated from the basement, reverberating like a heartbeat as it thrummed through the floor. Jenna froze, fear carving ice in her veins. What was down there? Could it be Lily? Or something else entirely? The shadows beckoned, wrapping around her heels, dragging her closer to the door leading down into darkness. Jenna's breath came fast, each intake feeling like the edges of her sanity fraying. "Lily," she cried, voice trembling that as silence enveloped her once more. She realized the whisper had changed, no longer pleading, but now a sinister laughter that spiraled down the spiral. Jenna was left with a choice: confront the darkness hiding beneath, or leave it behind and risk losing more than she could bear. The heartbeat of the house grew louder, matching her own. It felt like it was alive. An insistent echo tugged at her feet, pulling her forward. And then, just like that, the lights flickered back on, illuminating a face in the shadows. But it wasn't Lily. Who was it? What waited below? Jenna didn't recognize the face illuminated by the flickering light. It was contorted, twisted, as if a once familiar friend had been stripped of their humanity. Eyes, wide and empty, fixed on her with a haunting intensity. Fear surged through her, a wildfire threatening to consume her. "What do you want?" she managed to croak, her throat tight with dread. The figure stepped closer, its features morphing within the shadows, warping like a reflection in broken glass. "Lily," it whispered, voice low and smooth as silk, but laced with barbs. "She wants to play." Jenna's heart sank. Was this some kind of cruel trick? Let her go? Where is she? The figure didn't respond. Instead, it pointed behind her with a skeletal finger, a gesture drenched in ominous intent. A black fog rolled in from the corners of the room, tendrils slithering toward her. The air grew thick, and panic clawed at her throat. "Run, Jenna!" A voice echoed from deep within her head. It sounded like Lily, but warped and distant, distorted like static on a radio. Taking a step back, Jenna felt her feet stuck to the ground, the pull of the shadows wrapping tighter around her ankles. How could something so wrong feel so achingly familiar? Every second stretched like a rubber band ready to snap. "I want to leave you," she screamed, fighting against the darkness. The laughter intensified, rippling like thunder in a storm. "You want to leave, Jenna? It's too late for that." With a sudden burst of instinct, she turned and bolted for the basement door, yanking it open wide. The concrete staircase yawned below, shrouded in darkness deeper than night. She hesitated, heart racing. The thuds from below grew louder, an answering echo to her own frantic heartbeat. "Lily," she called again, her voice cracking and echoing into the void. There was no response, only the relentless, mocking laughter that layered over itself like some grotesque symphony. Suddenly, the figure rushed forward, shifting into a stream of shadows that lunged at her. Jenna stumbled back, barely evading the grasping darkness. "No," she shouted as she slammed the door shut. The shadows screeched, a sound that sent chills rattling through her bones as they clawed at the wood, desperate to get in. "Think, Jenna," she whispered to herself, breathing fast and shallow. In the chaos of her thoughts, she remembered the old journal she had found in the attic, a record of the previous owners, their struggles against the darkness that lived in the walls. Could it hold the key to banishing this nightmare? The front door beckoned, but the figure was still there, a looming presence. She had to buy herself time. She dashed toward the kitchen, skidding to the side just as a shadow flared at the corner of her vision. The cupboards were empty, but her fingers brushed against something cold and metal. A knife. She gripped it tightly, dread mixing with a surge of frantic courage. "Stay away from me," she yelled. Outside, Jessica stood by the door, pulse quickening as she heard Jenna's cries. Should she go in? Should she wait? But every instinct screamed at her. The air thickened, filled with choking sorrow and frantic energy. "Jenna, I'm coming," Jessica shouted into the house, torn between fear and fierce loyalty. She stepped closer, the darkness inching away from her. Inside, Jenna took a step back, eyes darting to the basement door. If the shadows wanted Lily, they might already have her. The thought froze her blood. Did she dare descend into that abyss? Or was it foolish to hope Lily was even there at all? Then, without warning, the lights flickered again, plunging the room into momentary darkness. The whispers swelled, a storm of voices rising in urgency. Join us, a shadow loomed directly in front of Jenna, blocking her escape. She felt something slip over her feet, a cold grip tightening, dragging her toward the door. And the last thing she saw before everything went black was Jessica's terrified face, screaming her name as the darkness consumed her whole. What waited beneath? And could anyone escape the house now? Jenna woke with a jolt, breathless and disoriented. The darkness enveloped her like a heavy quilt, smothering and thick. She blinked rapidly, as though trying to shake off a haunting dream. The air around her was stale, heavy with an earthy smell that made her stomach churn. Where was she? Rolling onto her side, she noticed the cool concrete beneath her, a stark contrast to the warm embrace of her bed. Her heart raced as fragments of memory flooded back the figure, the haunting laughter, the shadows. "Lily," she shouted, desperation scraping her throat raw. Silence. Just the echo of her panic ricocheting off the walls. Trying to push herself up, she felt the weight of something on her legs. She looked down and gasped. Heavy chains, cold and rusted, shackled her ankles. Panic surged through her as she yanked at them. "No. Please, no." The chains rattled but did not give way. Then, a dim light flickered above, casting ghostly shadows that danced ominously across the walls. Jenna squinted, trying to grasp her surroundings. The space felt like a tomb, narrow, dark, and filled with echoes of lost souls. To her left, a door loomed, just slightly ajar. It dared her to approach. "Lily," she called again, her voice a ragged whisper. "Are you there?" Nothing. Gathering her resolve, Jenna kicked at the chains, gritting her teeth against the pain. If she could just free herself, she could find Lily. She twisted, pulled, and cried out, fight and despair wrestling within her. Finally, with a painful lurch, she gave one last desperate tug. There was a sickening snap, and the chains fell away. Barefoot, she stumbled toward the door, panic-driven adrenaline fueling her steps. With one swift motion, she pushed the door wide open and stepped into a corridor lit by fading lights. The air was cooler here, carrying a whispering wind that sent chills skittering down her spine. "Lily," she yelled again, voice rippling through the corridor. Farther down, the dim lighting illuminated a mural on the walls. It depicted children playing, surrounded by twisted trees and ominous shadows. Jenna shuddered, dread pooling in her stomach. With every step, she felt eyes watching her from the darkness, an unseen audience reveling in her fear. Then she heard a soft giggle, sweet and innocent, but entirely wrong in this place. A glance backward told her the shadows were gathering behind her, creeping forward as if they were alive, hungry. "I have to go," she murmured, forcing herself to move quicker. As she neared the end of the corridor, she spotted another door, this one slightly ajar, lights spilling out from within. Hope flared just as fast as it faded. Could Lily be inside? Summoning every ounce of courage, Jenna burst through the door, crashing into a room that looked like a twisted version of a nursery. Toys littered the floor, their cheerful colors muted under a layer of dust. On an old rocking chair sat a doll, its porcelain face cracked, eerily smiling, as if it knew something Jenna didn't. Lily, Jenna cried, scanning the room, eyes wide with fear. Jenna, the voice was faint but unmistakable, soft as a whisper carried on the wind. Help me, Jenna wheeled around, heart pounding. In the farthest corner of the room, a figure scrambled to her feet, shrouded in shadow. She recognized the outline as Lily's. I'm coming, Jenna yelled, rushing forward. But as she reached out, the room began to shake. The walls trembled, and the shadows writhed violently. The laughter returned, louder now, vibrating through her bones. You cannot save her, Jenna had echoed, growing wild. Jenna's gut twisted. She was trapped. I won't let you take her. With fear coursing through her veins, she lunged for Lily, desperation pushing her forward just as the shadows closed in around them both. The last thing Jenna felt was the chill of darkness wrapping around her. And then silence. What had happened to Lily? And was Jenna lost forever in the clutches of a nightmare beyond comprehension? Jenna's eyes fluttered open again, but this time the darkness felt different. It was no longer a suffocating blanket. This was more of a void, a pit where nothing existed but her racing heart and heavy breaths. She struggled to sit up, the staggering weight of dread pressing down on her chest. Lily? She called, voice cracking, but the name echoed back unyielding and bitter. Where was the boyish figure of her sister? The laughter, the giggles, it all faded like a long-lost dream. Panic sliced through her once more, and she fought against the wave of despair threatening to drown her. Jenna's fingers brushed against a rough surface, bumpy and warm. Blinking, she understood now. Her hand was resting on the remains of the mural. It had changed, or maybe it was a trick of the mind. The children's faces were twisted in agony, their bodies distorted as if they were trapped in a painting of endless horror. They reached out to her, pleading for release. Stop it, she screamed, pulling away. She stumbled to her feet, the floor cool against her bare skin. The air grew denser, thickening around her like fog. Shadows moved, undulating just beyond her line of sight, and she felt their cold fingers clawing at her sanity. She needed to find Lily. She needed to escape. Jenna swung her head around, searching, desperate for any sign of her sister. Her heart raced as she stepped cautiously through the nursery, each creak of the floorboards beneath her adding to the restless tension gnawing at her. Then the laughter returned, a cacophony that filled the room, swirling around her, bouncing off the walls. It was no longer sweet. It felt mocking, sinister. You thought you could save her, the voice dripped with malice. She's one of us now. Jenna spun around, fists clenched. Shut up. Leave her alone. A sudden chill swept over her, and she felt the presence of something dark and ancient looming just out of reach. Jenna stomped forward, eyes wild, determined to confront whatever this was. With trembling hands, she reached behind the cracked doll, yanking it from its seat, as if that could somehow dispel the evil wrapping around her. But as she did, a scream erupted from her lips, a deep, primal sound. The doll transformed in her hands, its glassy eyes shifting into red slits, gleaming with fury. Jenna dropped it. It hit the ground, shattering, laughter exploding around her like fireworks. Run! A tiny voice begged, frantic and panicked, echoing inside her mind. It sounded like Lily. Heart pounding, Jenna tore toward the door she'd come through, ready to flee, but the room shifted. The walls began to close in. The nursery was morphing before her eyes. Bookshelves crumbled, and toys erupted into wild, cacophonous laughter, mocking her with a twisted sense of joy. Not so fast, the voice crooned, wrapping around her like a serpent. Jenna fought to maintain her footing, but the floor shuddered beneath her, swirling like a vortex, pulling her down into a darkness deeper than anything she had ever encountered. Grasping at the wall, she tried to pull herself back, slipping but refusing to fall. In that moment, a flash of brightness caught her eye, the other door. It was wide open, radiating a warm glow that beckoned her. Lily, she called, hope igniting in her chest. With renewed resolve, Jenna sprinted towards the light. The malevolent laughter chased after her, echoing off of every surface, the walls shaking with fury. She could feel the shadows reaching for her, but she leaped through the doorway, tumbling into a world brimming with blinding light and a chilling silence. But as she looked around, her heart fell. Where was she now? The landscape felt surreal, a twisted blend of what she knew and what had been created. Was this another trap or a chance for escape? Lily? She whispered, dread pooling within her as she stepped further into the unknown, uncertainty gripping her like a vice. The answer slipped through the air like a whisper. And in the shadows, something watched waiting. What would she find in this new realm? Would it be freedom or the final unraveling of everything she held dear? Jenna took a hesitant step forward, her heart hammering against her ribs like a wild creature desperate to escape. The air around her buzzed faintly, almost alive, as if the very essence of the place was holding its breath. The landscape swirled with depth and illusion. What she thought were trees morphed into grotesque figures, their branches twisting like gnarled hands clawing at the sky. Lily, she called again, her voice echoing in the heavy silence. The call ricocheted off the surreal scenery, but there was no answer, only the heartbeat of her fear thrumming in her ears. She spotted a distant glow flickering through the shadows. It drew her in like a moth to a flame, but caution nagged at her. The laughter had stopped, replaced by an all-consuming quiet, pregnant with unseen dangers. What lurked in the dark, waiting for her to draw nearer. But she couldn't let fear paralyze her. It was her sister who mattered now. A soft rustle, barely perceptible, caught her attention. Jenna's body tensed, instinctively spinning around. Lily? Nothing. Just the rustling of the wind, or was it? A deeper stillness enveloped her, suffused with a waiting anticipation. Shadows danced at the edges of her vision, drawing her towards where the light flickered. Each footstep felt weighted, the ground beneath seemingly shifting with her anxiety. She pressed on, heart racing, until the light revealed itself a lantern, hanging unperturbed from a crooked tree branch, illuminating a worn path of cobblestones. The path twisted in unnatural angles, beckoning her to follow. With every step, memories of her childhood flooded back, where she and Lily would play on the same kind of streets, safe and familiar. But this was far from home. This was something else entirely. Lily, she screamed, louder now. The echo came back to her, taunting. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, a small silhouette that made Jenna's heart leap. Lily? But as it stepped into the light, her hopes spiraled into horror. It was no longer her sister, but a creature with wide, hollow eyes and a mouth stretched too wide to be human. The creature grinned, revealing teeth that looked like shards of porcelain, sharp and gleaming in the light. No. Jenna stumbled back, horror crystallizing in her throat like ice. The thing tilted its head, its eerie smile never fading, and seemed to know her terror. It whispered in a voice that dripped with venomous sweetness. She's here, just beyond the shadows, but you must pay the price. Panic flooded her thoughts. What did they want? She could hear echoes of laughter again, but it was sinister, echoing from all around, drowning out the quiet. Lily's voice reverberated in her mind, a haunting melody wrapped in fear. Help me, please. Jenna was trapped, standing on the edge between a festering darkness and the flickering light that promised safety. To save Lily, she had to confront the creature. Tears streamed down her face, mixing with the taste of despair. What do you want? She whimpered, fully prepared to crumble. Your essence, it cooed, slinking closer. All that you have. In exchange, you will be granted passage to her. Every nerve in Jenna screamed to flee, to turn and run, but she couldn't abandon her sister. I'll give anything, she cried, her voice breaking. A low chuckle rippled through the air, thickening with a miasma of dread. Shadows swirled around her, and the world flickered like a dying flame. Then step closer, child. As Jenna inched forward, the shadows swelled, swirling into a tempest, tendrils reaching out to her. Each one felt like icy fingers grazing her skin, sapping her strength, stealing the air. Lily, she squeezed out one last time, feeling the tether to her sister stretching thin with the weight of the darkness. The flash of movement caught her eye on the periphery, another figure, small but vivid. Jenna's heart raced. Was this her chance? Help me. Over here. The voice was unmistakably Lily's, faint but desperate. The creature's grin widened, revealing more porcelain teeth as it lunged forward. Jenna felt panic igniting within her once more. She couldn't look away from Lily's silhouette as it flickered like a dying star. With a deep breath, Jenna prepared to plunge into the dark, knowing she had to face whatever lay ahead. What awaited her could be salvation or the final curse. Would she reunite with Lily or become another shadow dwelling in this haunting realm? Jenna was swallowed by darkness, the shadows tucking themselves tightly around her, curling like smoke. Her senses heightened. Every sound felt amplified: the whisper of the wind, the soft scuttling of something unseen, and the distant echo of Lily's voice pulling her deeper into the abyss. "Lily!" she shouted, the desperation in her voice cracking like glass. The air grew dense, as though the world itself was pressing down on her, urging her to turn back. But how could she? She felt that flicker of hope tethered to her sister, and that flicker was fading fast. The creature followed her, its laughter now a grotesque melody echoing through the trees, a twisted song that mocked Jenna's resolve. "You think you can save her?" it crooned, the words laced with malice. "The deeper you go, the closer you come to your doom." With every step, the ground felt like it was giving way beneath her, as if the path itself wanted to consume her. Her heart raced, fueled by fear and the need to find her sister. "How do I find her?" Jenna gasped, caught between terror and the need for answers. The shadows around her twisted and writhed, their shapes taking the form of anguished faces that blinked in and out of existence, lost souls, just like Jenna feared she might become. "Simple, my dear," the creature whispered, its breath cool against her ear. "Follow the trail of sorrow. You'll know it when you see it. But be warned, the cost is steep." Something cold slithered into her veins at its words, but she couldn't think about that now. With each beat of her heart, the urgency grew. Jenna pressed on, trudging through layers of uncertainty and horror. She turned around, expecting the creature to be right behind her, but it had disappeared, leaving a lingering echo that filled her with dread. Then she saw a shimmer of light illuminating a clearing ahead. Breathlessly, she rushed forward, hopeful for the first time since she had arrived in this hellish dream. The glow pulsated like a heartbeat, beckoning her closer as her feet carried her steadily. But as she emerged into the clearing, hope turned to horror. The trees formed a circle, and in the center, rooted in shadows, was an altar made of bone and ash. Pictures of indistinct faces were carved into its surface, the expressions mixing anguish and joy. A soft weeping filled the air as figures, half-formed, floated around the altar, their mouths moving silently in a desperate rhythm. "Lily!" Jenna jerked her head, her breath catching in her throat. There, at the foot of the altar, lay a small figure, crumpled and unmoving. She rushed forward, but just as she reached for her sister, the ground trembled, releasing a low, growling rumble. The dark figures twisted towards her, their features sharpening into distinct agony, their wails erupting like a chorus of anguish. "Leave her be," the spirit-like forms cried, their voices bleeding into one another. Each wail clawed at Jenna's heart, pulling her back from her sister. She could see the outline of Lily, but the shadows held her tight. With shaking hands, Jenna reached out once more, but the air thickened, forming a barrier that felt like ice. "Your essence must be offered," a voice echoed from the shadows, the creature's familiar tone slithering back. "Only then will she wake. Do you dare?" Jenna's chest tightened. Offering her essence? The word tasted bitter on her tongue. What does that even mean? A single laugh erupted from the dark void, echoing around her. "Whatever you value most, my dear, surrender it to the shadows." Terror gripped Jenna like a vice. To save Lily, she would have to sacrifice everything. Was it worth it? Time stretched, and with every passing second, the darkness pressed in closer, urging her toward a choice she never wished to confront. And then a sickening snap of branches. Another figure stepped into the light. "Jenna?" It was a voice that struck her like a blow, a voice she knew all too well. But it wasn't Lily. No. As her heart sank, horror cascaded through her. No, it can't be. The darkness laughed louder, growing oppressive. Would her sister be lost? Forever? Or would she abandon everything she held dear to retrieve her? Jenna stood frozen, teetering on the edge of a decision that could change everything. What would she give up? And what darkness would follow her resolve? The figure emerged from the shadows, stepping closer to the pulsing light of the altar. Jenna felt the air grow thicker, constricting around her like a vice. Her heart raced as it came into focus, a familiar face, yet twisted by time and pain. It was her father, his eyes clouded, the warmth long gone. "Dad." Jenna's voice trembled, breaking the spell of disbelief. She never believed she would see him again, let alone in a place like this. But the joy that twisted in her chest quickly soured. This was not the reunion she had imagined. "Leave. You don't belong here," he shouted, his voice hoarse and strained, a stark contrast to the kind tone she remembered. "You have to get out." "But Lily," Jenna choked, glancing back toward her sister, the darkness stretching its clawed fingers closer. The shadows murmured, angry hisses hissing through the trees. "You cannot have both. She will pay for your folly." Jenna's pulse thundered in her ears, drowning out the wails of the trapped souls. "I can't just leave her. You don't understand," her father cried, taking a step forward but recoiling as shadows attacked him, wisps of dark smoke spiraling around him like snakes. "This place feeds on regret. You need to let go." His words struck her like a slap. "Regret?" The whispers echoed around her, feeding her dread. She looked between him and Lily, caught in a cage of despair. What was the cost of saving one? If she freed Lily, would she lose him again? "Your father can't help you now." The creature's voice slid through the air, smooth as silk, filled with poison. "But you can save her. Just offer me what you value the most." Tears streamed down Jenna's cheeks as she fought against the weight of the decision. "What else do you want from me?" Her body trembled as she gripped the altar in desperation, as if it were a lifeline. But then she felt it, a jolt like electricity. The altar thrummed beneath her fingers, resonating with her anguish. Inside, a voice whispered, softer but clearer, as though the altar itself was alive. "Let me and take your father with you. Let us all be free." Suddenly, the shadows surged forward, closing in on her with intent. A surge of terror shot through her, igniting a primal fight-or-flight response. "Leave my family alone," she screamed. But the shadows danced excitedly, hungry. And then she saw it, a glimmer in her father's missing warmth, a faded picture of happier times. "What do I have to lose?" she gasped, her heart a battleground of loyalty versus survival. "Everything," he roared, the shadows pulling at him like a tide. Jenna pressed her fingertips against the altar again, feeling the energy pulse. There had to be a way to save them both, to break the cycle. "I can't lose either of you," she cried out. And then the shadows retreated slightly, curious. "What if you don't lose one of us, but gain something greater?" It mused. Jenna's breath hitched. What kind of betrayal was this? Uncertainty and desperation swirled inside her, battling against the insatiable darkness closing in. "Make a choice." The voice thickened in the air as the shadows pressed further, overcrowding her thoughts. Would she betray her father, a ghost of her past, to save her sister? Or would Lily fade away, leaving her to conquer the void alone? She blinked, every breath pulling her deeper into despair. Jenna had to choose, but the very act of choosing felt like pulling the thread that could unravel everything she had left. The moment stretched, and the shadows drew closer, waiting for her inevitable confession, the chilling promise lingering in the air. Suddenly, the altar's thrum intensified, and Jenna realized a voice, familiar and soft, breaking through. "Jenna, don't let them in." But whose voice was it? The darkness lurked, eager to claim its prize as Jenna teetered on the edge of a decision that could consume them all. Could she surge through the pain for the chance at salvation? The shadows whispered eagerly. "All you need to do is say yes." What would she decide? Would she find a way out of this nightmare? Or would she become yet another lost spirit, trapped forever? The air buzzed, thick with potential and fear. Jenna stood at the altar, breath hitching in her throat, as competing voices faded in and out of the chaos. The shadows encroached on her, tempting and taunting, while the weight of her choices pressed down like a leaden cloak. She could feel the presence of both her father and Lily, a tether between the two that felt impossibly fragile. "Jenna, you have to choose." The familiar voice echoed in her mind, and with it came a flash of warmth, the childhood comfort she had lost. It was not just her father or sister. It felt like a memory of love, a hand in the dark, reminding her of what it meant to be family. The laughter of the shadows twisted her own memories. dark and suffocating. What is it to be? Will you sacrifice the girl or the man? Choose. They hissed. Just then, a glimmer of recognition ignited within her. A thought flicked like a spark, fierce and unyielding. Jenna breathed deeply, swallowing the doubt, and cried out, I choose to fight. The shadows recoiled. Their shrill laughter turned to a howling rage. The altar pulsed beneath her fingertips, alive and electric, channeling her defiance. You can't have us, she shouted, voice thick with conviction. You will not bind us to your despair. The darkness writhed, twisting and snapping around her. Her father's voice broke free, filled with anguish yet echoing strength. Jenna, listen to me. You can rise above this. You have the power. In that moment, the ties that tethered her to the altar began to warp, shifting from dread to an empowering hope. Jenna focused on the love. She felt the warmth of holding Lily's small hand, the laughter of fleeting moments, and the comfort of a protective embrace. I'm not afraid of losing you, she yelled. I embrace every piece of you, and I will not let you go into this darkness. The shadows surged forward, but she held her ground. Hearts intertwined can conquer the void, she proclaimed. A brilliant light erupted from the altar, bathing her in warmth, banishing the cold fingers of despair. Jenna threw her arms open wide, allowing the waves of love to pour from her heart. Together, we escaped this illusion. Lily needs me, and I need you. The brilliance grew, exploding outward in a radiant pulse that shattered the dark figures. No, the creature shrieked, its form contorting as it shrunk back, unraveling in the face of Jenna's defiance. The air around her began to shift, reshaping the landscape, and she felt Lily's presence surge closer, wrapped in their shared strength. In an instant, she saw her sister small, vulnerable, but undeniably alive, crouched near the altar. Lily, she cried, reaching out as the oppressive weight of the shadows began to melt away, scattered like mist under the sun's light. A chorus of anguished wails erupted from the shadows as they retreated. You will pay for this, child. You cannot escape. But Jenna held unwavering. Watch me, she declared, pulling Lily into her arms. Their hearts raced together, a synchronized rhythm breaking through the gnawing fear. The power of familial love surged within them, illuminating the dark corners of the world they were trapped in. Let us go, Jenna urged, as the clearing erupted in light, and she felt the comforting weight of Lily in her arms. In a blinding flash, they surged forward, breaking through layers of shadows, propelled by love and determination, moving towards a vibrant, illuminated space beyond. The altar collapsed behind them, the whispers of lost souls echoing faintly, but Jenna held on tightly to Lily, feeling the tendrils of safety wrap around them. And then, emerging into the world of pale morning light, they stumbled into familiar ground, their backyard at home. The sunlight poured over them, warm and real, banishing the nightmares behind them. Jenna dropped to her knees, holding Lily tight, relief flooding over both of them. We're home. We made it. She wept, as laughter bubbled up joyously between them. But in the shimmering sky, Jenna could still feel the memories lingering, hovering at the edges of her consciousness. She understood now where light exists, shadows always dwell. Yet, she wouldn't let that define her life. She had faced the darkness, won, and the bond between them would hold strong against any future trials. In that quiet suburban cul-de-sac, life began anew, a little brighter, a little more aware of the lurking shadows, but also filled with love, resilience, and an indomitable spirit. They would cherish every day together, knowing that they faced every fear, side by side. And as they stood holding each other in the early light, Jenna determinedly whispered, never again. We will always fight for one another. Now, as the story wraps up, it's your turn to be part of this journey. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the exciting tales that are yet to come. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us reach even more hearts with our stories. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. What did you think? What was your favorite part? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us spread the love and resilience together. Thank you for joining us. Your support means everything.